Hello and welcome. This is a chat to the professional, your regular. This is a show that has been designed to x-ray the activities of professional individuals and corporate bodies. Today, we are going to be discussing evolving issues as far as Nigeria's economy is concerned. We've had the 2011 elections. Prior to the elections, we had a couple of guests who gave us their opinion about their expectations and what they hope Nigeria should achieve after the elections. And one of such guests was Professor Alphaeus Onyeke, a professor of entrepreneurship who came in from New Zealand at that point, saying he had come to assist in resuscitating Nigeria, a country that he described then as being in comatose. And so today we are going to be having him once again to see how much of such resuscitation we've had within the past 1 year. That's what the chat with the professional will be seeking to discuss today. And as usual, my name is Martin Sobu. We shall be taking a break, and by the time we return, it will be the interview segment. Please stay. All right, viewers, you're still watching A Chat to the Professional, and like I mentioned to you in my introduction, today we are going to be looking at Nigeria's economy after the 2011 elections. My guest here, like I also mentioned in my introduction, is a professor of entrepreneurship, someone who has also paid his dues. He's been on this show before, and today, once again, we are going to be taking a look at Nigeria's economy after 2011 elections. The last time we had him was in 2010, before the elections, and he had a couple of things to say. Today we are going to be looking at the journey so far with the Goodluck Jonathan administration. So join me now as I welcome to the studio Professor Alphaeus Onyeke. My pleasure once again having you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the last time you came on this show, you said Nigeria was in comatose and needed resuscitation. Now, how much of that resuscitation have we had within the past 1 year or thereabout?
Yes, I remember telling you that Nigeria was in socio-economic and political comatose, and yes, that the election will determine how far we'll go. We've just resuscitated the socio-political one.
Okay.
I think we should be patient to resuscitate the socio-economic platform of Nigeria. Thank you.
Now, how much patience are we talking about here? Because, I mean, we've done practically 1 year since the last time I had you. And the 2011 elections have come and gone. We are talking about something that took place way back in April. We are in the last quarter of the year, and I do not know a hungry man that has been patient for the past 1 year. How do you expect him to survive?
I think, as I promised to let Nigerians see a different kind of political pathway, we've been able to liquidate Nigerian tribalistic politics. Okay. We've driven Nigeria to a political platform of intellectualism. Okay. I've been very impressed with the rate at which Nigerians discuss issues. We've not been patient enough to discuss issues, to analyze issues, to dialogue issues, to negotiate issues. Okay. Prior to now, Nigerians will take it as it is dished out from the villa.
Okay.
I was happy when the issue of single tenure came up. Nigerians discussed, Nigerians negotiated, Nigerians dialogued, and then the president went with the temperature of Nigerian public and said, maybe we should slow down. That is democracy. That is impressive.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, now, so far so good. You were here for the 2011 elections, and to a very large extent you participated. Are you impressed, or were you impressed with the outcome, starting from the conduct to the announcement of the results, and then what has evolved, since the new administration was sworn into power?
Well, I thank God that I was privy to the strategization and to the implementation, and that we ran for the first time a political campaign that took Nigerians from their foot to their head. And that the result was obvious. However, we need to understand that from my equation that I gave you,
yes,
we had 10 factors. I can say that I'm impressed with about 6 of the factors.
Okay.
And then we need to improve on the other 4.
On the other 4. Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the first election, Nigerians had high level of human capital investing on the success of the election. I've never had a history of vice chancellors becoming returning officers. I've never had it so good that a president toured all the states, and no matter the turnout, he expressed himself as a president that is ready to move Nigeria forward. And I must recognize as well, Nigerians need to understand that we've not had a presidential candidate that just sat down, designed a socio-economic and political pathway that he will implement. Rather, we've been victims of political serendipities.
Okay.
And we need to start from now to look forward to Nigerian presidential candidate sitting down, drafting an agenda for Nigeria. Okay. And I want Nigerians to understand that this country is a virgin land, socio-economically.
Okay.
That everybody needed not to be a politician. When the economy takes off, you can see a president earning less than most corporate leaders.
Yes.
I was just talking to a group of intellectuals or academia, and I defined government and governance. When we talk about good governance, it's not all about government. Governance is wider than government. Government actually is a microcosm of governance. We have corporate governance, we have social governance, we have political governance, we have religious governance. Okay. And I wish that Nigerians, other pathways, apart from political governance, we recognize that they also are responsible for their sectoral pathways.
Thank you very much. Before we take a short break, I would like you to touch on your equation. I remember you gave me that equation that a lot of people called in to find out details about, and because you just mentioned that you're satisfied so far with about 6 of the 10 that you reeled out as at that time. So I wouldn't know if you would want to recap just in like 60 seconds what the equation is about, the ones you're satisfied with, and then the ones you think we need to work on.
Okay, I talked about 7P over TLC equals PO equals to 1.
Okay.
And I told you that P's represent politics, policies, principles, procedure, protocol, process, practice.
Okay.
And TLC means technology, laws and culture. Okay. I'm satisfied with Nigerians' political activities, policy making, principles, not quite, procedure, not quite, process, not quite. But the practice, the mass exodus of Nigerians to come and participate, knowing that one vote, one man counted,
okay,
was impressive. Technologically, we're yet to be there.
Okay.
Culturally, I think we're impressive, and our laws are left for amendment.
It's all right. Thank you very much. At this point, viewers, I think we must take a break. When we return, I will be taking him on the cultural aspect of this equation because, well, he just said we are getting there, but personally, I doubt if we really are. But that will be after the break. Please don't go away as we take on this break. We'll be back. You're welcome back. You're still watching A Chat to the Professional, the show that has been designed to x-ray the activities of professional individuals and corporate bodies. Before we went on break, my guest, Professor Alphaeus Onyeke, a professor of entrepreneurship, who has practiced in New Zealand for so many years. He also participated actively, getting elected into the Enugu State House of Assembly way back in 1991. But today, he's back to the country, and the last time I had him on the show, he talked about being in Nigeria to see how we can resuscitate the country, a country known, perhaps on paper as we speak, as the giant of Africa. And what he said was he's here to ensure that the country is resuscitated to regain its position as not just a regional but global leader, technologically, economically, and most essentially, educationally. Before we went on break, Prof, you talked about being impressed about some of the aspects of your equation, and then you talked about culture, which, as a matter of fact, struck me. Do you think we are regaining our culture? Because I also remember that the last time you were on this show, we talked about our culture being eroded. Westernization of the culture to the extent that today we have a lot of Nigerians who cannot speak good English, they cannot speak their local languages, they cannot speak any other language well, because we keep importing kids from the homes are no longer taught how to speak in their local vernacular. And so they get into school, they don't even have a vocabulary to improve upon, because when you have richness in your local vocabulary, you can now seek the meaning or the translation in either English or any other language. So, and that's why I'm asking, are you really impressed with the cultural rejuvenation, as it were?
Well, when you talk about culture in that sense, that becomes tradition.
Okay.
But when I was talking about culture relative to my equation, I was talking about organizational culture.
Okay.
And when I said I was impressed with the organizational culture of the electoral process, that I own to that. Okay. But in terms of our tradition and language rejuvenation and so on, I think nobody is impressed with what we are seeing. We are even depreciating to a point where it is not just that we don't speak our dialects, we don't speak our local languages, but we don't even act locally. I was, during my lecture as well, I observed that our research topics needed to be community-oriented, to reflect the needs of the community where the universities are situated, and not going to borrow topics from abroad to research in Nigeria. And we need to indigenize our academic efforts, get talking, get negotiating to make sure. I mean, I was giving an example with Okada, which is a new transport system in Nigeria. Everybody is saying these people are crude, these people are rude, these people are sort of. The universities, the polytechnics, the colleges of education need to take those topics. An emerging transport system in Nigeria. Yes. The pros and cons. And then we can come out with, if it needs modernization, because when I was talking to people about it, they said it had solved several factors, such as crime, such as unemployment, and so on and so forth. It's not just because of their attitude. It took us a while to train car drivers. You know, in fact, if you're talking about cultural indigenization and economic development, we need to restructure our economic system to reflect our cultural necessities.
Yes, thank you very much. What you just mentioned is one of the campaigns that we once carried on this show. I think that was sometime in 2000, between 2001 and 2003. Then we kept having workshops, as at that time, as organized by the Nigerian Accounting Standards Board. And we kept hearing things like domesticating some international standards. Yes, we know that no country lives or operates in isolation. The world is becoming a global village. But the question I keep asking is, why must we keep importing strategies and policies? Why can't we develop our own strategies and policies that we meet the local needs, the socio-cultural needs of Nigerians? Why do we always have to borrow? Because what we've been doing essentially is that, okay, we borrow this technology in particular, and then it fades out, and we begin to look for a current one that exists elsewhere. Before we finish domesticating, it would have become obsolete, and we go to borrow again. Why can't we begin to look inwards to have our own research based on local content and the environment? So what do you think we can do to ensure we're able to achieve this?
The only thing, I gave a triangular system of education, which is the universities should marry the politics and marry the industries.
Okay.
I mean, everything in Nigeria is attached to politics. And everything in Nigeria is attached to industries, economy. Who has the money? Okay? I will pray that our universities will be participants in both. Participants in politics, participants in economy, economic drive. Mm-hmm. If, for example, they start to marry the business roundtables, to structure topics that attract the business roundtables. The industrial assistance will finance the research, and the outcome of the research will be utilized to affect productivity. That will be indigenizing topics. Okay, but at the moment, the only place they can get funding for research is foreign assistance. And when that foreign assistance, they would like to have topics designed to favor them. But when Nigerian politicians start to realize that universities are not in isolation, universities play a role in legislative development, I'm impressed, because when I came to Nigeria, we didn't have legislative studies. Today, I read today an advert that a DG had been appointed for Institute of Legislative Studies. That's an improvement. So you can see that we are trying to, with a professor being the DG of that institute, he or she will attract other professors, just as Jega was able to attract vice chancellors
colleagues,
to be returning officers, which used to be a job left for
just anybody.
And that prompted easy buy, easy take. Most people were frightened that a vice chancellor would disgrace me if I offered 10 million. And it happened in Anambra. Somebody was offered money. That person turned it down and blew it up. And tell me, the result was massive.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next issue is the politics seem to have been heated up with so many issues bordering on our existence as a people. The one on ground as we speak is the issue of deregulation of the downstream sector of the petroleum industry. And the federal government is saying come 2012, we are going to remove all subsidies on petroleum products. Now, there was a fine-tuning recently by the Honorable Minister for Petroleum Resources who came out to say kerosene is not a part of it. But the issue is this. As an individual, I don't have any problem with with removal of subsidy. Do we have enough capacity locally to refine products that will go around the ordinary Nigerian? Because for me, my understanding of removal of subsidy is that one is going to tame Nigerian excesses. You go to all streets across the country and you have millions of cars on the road every day. In one household, you probably have about 5 cars driving out the same day. And these are resources that could have been saved if we have a well-planned transport system. How do we ensure that the removal of the subsidy achieves these aims? How do we ensure that, look, before we do that, we have enough local capacity to refine enough petroleum products, and then we can say, hey, come in, invest, sell your product based on your own cost of production. So what's your take on all this?
Well, I think I'm passionate about this government. And any issue that relates to the success or failure of this government, I'm a stakeholder. Okay. This is by way of disclosure, so that whichever view I air here, you will know why I'm airing it.
Okay.
On oil subsidy removal, this is the most democratic approach that we've seen in this country.
Okay.
The government used to come and dish it out. Oil subsidy is removed. This government came in, gave a time frame of when to remove it. And as I told you earlier, this is a listening government. And as a listening government, the temperature of Nigerian public is being taken. I'm sure that the government is not going to just, as usual, dish it out. Okay. They will measure the temperature and they will determine the advantages and disadvantages. Okay. In fact, we are going to have a workshop on the impact of petroleum subsidy removal. And the report of the workshop will be made available to Nigerian public.
Who are the we?
Neighbor to neighbor.
Oh, okay. It's all right.
Transformation.
It's okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to
know. If that debate comes positive in favor of oil subsidy removal, then the public will hear, and the members of the public should understand. In fact, yesterday when I was talking to a friend of mine, he said, by the time you air your views on the advantages and disadvantages of alternative measures, Nigerians will say, remove oil subsidy. Then the benefactors will say, don't remove oil subsidy.
Okay, sorry, Prof. Unfortunately, time is no longer on our side. The director has signaled that we've come to the end of the interview segment for today's episode of the show. So, once again, accept the professional handshake, which is always a tradition, and is always a delight having you. I am hoping that soon we will bring you back to critically analyze Nigeria's economy. But like you said, so far so good. And it's my pleasure having you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. So viewers, at this point we must take another break. By the time I return, I'll be wrapping up the show, but that's all for the interview segment. Please stay. All right, viewers, that's the much you can take on the show today. Remember, A Chat with the Professional is still mobilizing for 300 television sets, which we intend to distribute to secondary schools across Nigeria. And, of course, the whole essence, as I keep telling you, is to ensure that we catch them young. Let us expose these young lads from the early stage in life to encourage them watch educational and scientific-based programs on television, rather than what we see in so many homes now is entertainment all the way. And that essentially has brought about the decline in both our educational development and scientific research. We have a big problem in our hands. If you listen to my interaction with Professor Onyeke, you would have heard us talk about indigenizing or localizing some of the policies that we just go and borrow, even when they do not match our local environment. The whole essence is to ensure that we have a future that guarantees a Nigeria that all of us can, recall to be known as the giant of not just Africa, but a global economic player. We cannot achieve the Vision 2020 that the administration of course, it was Obasanjo administration that began that, re-echoed by Yar'Adua administration. Now we have a Goodluck administration that is also pursuing that vigorously. But we cannot achieve all that except all hands are on deck. And we are trying to encourage the young ones to be the professionals we expect to carry on with that agenda. So that's all we have for you this week. Till next week, when I come your way, I remain Martin Sobu saying stay blessed, and I'll see you.